Welcome back. Finally, I say finally, we're on chapter 4, which is autosuggestion. So I know in the last chapter on faith, we were talking a lot about autosuggestion, and even in the last couple chapters. And finally, in chapter 4, Napoleon Hill explains what he means on autosuggestion. And I've been kind of explaining it to you. So once you hit this chapter and watching this video at the same time, you kind of like starting to really understand and get what I've been explaining. But this chapter is very short, so let's dig in it now. Let's get going, because I'm kind of excited to talk about this chapter. I'm going to start off reading, of course. I kind of set the premise, and then we'll go definitely to the whiteboard on this chapter. So let's get started. Autosuggestion is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli which reach one's mind through the 5 senses. Stated another way, autosuggestion is self-suggestion. It is the agency of communication between the part of the mind where the conscious thought takes place, that which serves as a seat of action for the subconscious mind. Let's continue. Through the dominating thoughts which one permits to remain in the conscious mind, whether those thoughts be negative or positive, is immaterial. The principle of autosuggestion voluntarily reaches the subconscious mind and influences it with these thoughts. Listen to this. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. Now, what's autosuggestion again? Now, autosuggestion is repetition affirmations. That's how you influence your subconscious mind, through autosuggestion. It's planned out. We're doing it on purpose. Okay? But let me read it one more time. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. With the exception of thoughts picked up from the ether. Remember, ether is air. Stated differently, all sense impressions which are perceived through the 5 senses are stopped by the conscious thinking mind and may either pass on to the subconscious mind or be rejected at will. The conscious faculty serves, therefore, as an outer guard to the approach to the subconscious. Now, before we move on to this chapter, this is a good part to kind of do a visual of the subconscious mind. And we did this a little bit in the chapter on faith, but let's get going since Napoleon Hill is finally explaining the subconscious mind. So how I like to explain it is kind of this stick figure. The little circle down here is our body. This is our mind. So the big circle is our mind. The reason why our mind is so big is our mind controls everything. Our mind controls our body. You know, if I want to reach and grab something, put my hand up in the air, that's my mind doing it. Okay? It's all so repetitive, I don't have to think about doing it. I don't have to think about telling every which muscle involved. I just do it. Make sense? So let's get going. So this is a review for you because we kind of covered this in the chapter on faith. So the top half is our conscious mind, which Napoleon Hill says is what? Is our thinking mind. This is where all thought permeates. Okay? Now, our conscious mind has our 5 senses, which Napoleon Hill just said in the chapter on autosuggestion. What are our 5 senses? You know, we have hearing, we have sight, taste, touch, smell. Those are our 5 senses. Okay? These are all come into our conscious mind, our thinking mind. Now, what influences our five senses. And sometimes I wish you were here with me so we could turn this into a discussion, but you're not. But anyway, what influences our five senses? I mean, how do we gather? How do we learn? So let me just kind of spill some off here. We have our environment. Okay, we're influenced by our environment. We're influenced by the media. Okay, TV, movies. What else are we influenced? You know, when we go to school, we're influenced by our educational system. We're influenced by our teachers and coaches. Everybody we come in contact with. Teachers, coaches, our parents. Okay, our family. Okay, these are all influences. This is all conditioning. This is how we're conditioned as a little boy, little girl on the way up. All this goes into, we learned all this from our five senses, okay? Again, which bleed into our conscious mind. So from here, we're going to have positive experiences, negative experiences. Sometimes what happens later in life, I don't know why this happens, that we tend to become a little bit more negative, a little bit more, and we don't have to be super negative, but just a little bit more, just how we view things. It's kind of a negative view on things, no matter what we want to call it, okay? Now, at this point, we either have positive emotions or we have negative experiences. What Napoleon Hill is saying with our conscious mind, this is our thinking mind, but at this point, we can reject things. We can accept and we can reject. Okay, we can say, oh, I don't. You made me think about something bad. I don't want to think about this. So we can reject it, or we can accept stuff. What we're letting in our environment. Okay. Now, the kicker is, once we accept in our conscious mind, once we accept it, either consciously or unconsciously, here's our subconscious mind. Once we accept it, it moves down to our subconscious mind. Now, our subconscious mind has to, without reason, has to accept. It doesn't have the ability to reject. It just accepts it. So whatever you let leak down here, consciously or unconsciously, okay, the subconscious mind has to accept it. Okay, this is what I've been explaining since almost all the chapters, especially the last couple of chapters. The subconscious mind takes things, no matter if it's reality or not. Make sense? No matter if you're telling yourself a lie or not. It has to accept it. Now, what Napoleon Hill is saying is he's using the word autosuggestion. So he's using the only way, if we want to change, if we're talking about the law of attraction, if we want to change our thought life, but this is what Think and Grow Rich is about. It's think and grow rich. Makes sense? It's thinking, it's using your mind. He's saying, from the use of autosuggestion, if you can read my handwriting, I always have to throw a joke in there a little once in a while, make it funny. But what Napoleon Hill is saying, through autosuggestion, the only way we can influence our subconscious mind is by affirmations. And these affirmations we do in repetition. Okay? This is how we influence and change our subconscious mind. Kind of sounds a little bit hokey and pokey. This is the first time you're hearing this. But this is exactly how we influence our subconscious mind. This is exactly how we change bad behavior, bad habits, bad thinking habits. Is in Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, is by affirmation. And we do that affirmation repetitively, repetition, over and over and over and over and over again. Just like in chapter 2 of your homework, of the 6 steps, writing out your plan. Then once you have that plan written, you say that plan every morning and every night before you go to bed, twice a day. And now you have the self-confidence formula you're adding in to your daily routine. So you're doing 2 things. This is repetition. See, in the beginning, it's going to seem weird. You know, it's going to seem like you're lying to yourself. It's going to seem like, oh, okay, I don't believe it. I'm just reading it. Okay, so what? You're just reading words in the air. You don't have no emotion to it because you feel like you're lying to yourself. And that's what you kind of go through in the beginning when you're doing affirmations and repetition. But do it. Don't stop. Even if it seems weird. Maybe you do it for a week and you think, oh, I don't see anything, whatever, okay. I didn't believe it to begin with. Remember what I said, the subconscious mind. Remember, if you deep down don't believe it, well, that's exactly what you're going to get. See, that's the power in the autosuggestion. That's the power in affirmations. You have to keep on doing it no matter if you believe it or not. Because eventually, you'll start believing it. Okay? Once you start believing it, it will start to influence your subconscious mind. Once it starts to influence your subconscious mind, remember, the subconscious mind has to accept it. It has to. It's the law. It has to accept it. Once it accepts it, that's when things are attracted to you. That's when the things that you want to achieve begin to transform into your life. Now, as you're kind of going through this, getting this in your head a little bit, let's move on to this chapter. This chapter is very short. It's short, but there's a lot of information in here. Now, Napoleon Hill, as we move on, he says, you were instructed in the last of the 6 steps described in the chapter on desire. He's talking about the 6 steps. You're supposed to write out your desire statement. To read aloud twice daily the written statement of your desire for money, and to see and feel yourself already in possession of the money. By following these instructions, you communicate the object of your desire directly to your subconscious mind in a spirit of absolute faith. So when you're reading your thing, you have to put yourself into a mentality of you believe it. Make sense? By following these instructions, you communicate the object of your desire directly to your subconscious mind in a spirit of absolute faith. Through repetition of this procedure, you voluntarily create thought habits which are favorable to your efforts to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent. Okay, one thing he brought up here, and I kind of brought it up as an example here, as when you repeat it. If you're repeating it and it doesn't feel like it's true to you, you feel like you're lying to yourself. See, this is what I would do. Sometimes I would get up in the morning and repeat it, and I'll have affirmations. And I would spend 20 minutes doing it. And I'm not saying that you spend 20 minutes doing this, but the reason why it took me 20 minutes is because I wanted to feel it as true. I wanted to believe it. I want to be in that state of expectancy where I believed it, where I'm not just repeating stuff. Makes sense? And Napoleon Hill brings us up, and I forget what chapter, it could be this chapter, it could be another chapter, but he brings us up. I mean, if you just pick up a prayer book and you just repeat words, that's why prayers don't really work. That's why just repeating stuff don't really work, because you kind of turn into a robot at that point, and you're just repeating things, but you attach no emotion or no feeling to it. What Napoleon Hill is saying is, with your affirmations and your repetition, is you put emotion into it. It's the emotion. It's the emotion. It's the belief. So let me give you an example. Sometimes I would wake up. I would say my desire statement. I would read a chapter of Think and Grow Rich. Then I would do my affirmations, and I would say something like this. I would say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm blessed and cannot be cursed. I'm so happy and grateful now, by December 31st, 2016, I'll be living in my dream community in Playa Vista, and I'll put money down on the jewel. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm a multimillionaire, and I continually make $15 million each and every year. I'm so happy and grateful now, I'm driving my dream car, and I'll say it descriptive. I'm so happy and grateful now, blessings come to me that make my head swim. I'm so happy and grateful now, blessings come to me no matter what. I'm so happy and grateful now that anything negative comes against me, I'm repaid by double. So I would say this stuff over and over and over until I got emotional, until I got excited about it. And this one took like 20 minutes, because sometimes you find yourself, you just kind of get in a habit, you're just repeating it, but there's no emotion behind it. See, I wanted to create emotion and a feeling behind it. Then what I started doing is, how I kind of taught you to play with the words? This is what I started doing. If I start saying, I'm so happy and grateful now that I woke up this morning, I might say, thank you. Thank you, Father, that I woke up this morning. Thank you, Father, that you've given me the house of my dreams. Thank you, Father, that my income is $15 million each and every year. Thank you, Father, that I can give 10% of my income away. Thank you, Father, that I can help people. Thank you, Father, that I'm doing what I love. Thank you, Father, that I'm supporting my family. Thank you, Father. See how I'm changing it up a little bit? Because if you use different words, it starts meaning something different. It starts getting you kind of emotional a little bit. You start getting a feeling. So sometimes you have to play with different words. If I say I'm happy and grateful now, I might say I might say something like, I walk in the state of expectancy. I expect greatness to happen in my life. I expect, when I wake up today, I expect greatness to come to me today. I expect to be blessed and not cursed. I expect to be the head and not the tail. I expect to be the lender or not the borrower. I expect blessings that come to me and literally make my head swim. I expect greatness. I expect $15 million every single year in my account. I expect that I'm going to help people. I expect that I'm a giver. I expect that I'm a giver and a receiver. See what I'm doing? And this might not be something that you personally want to say. You have to get stuff that motivates you, what you want to say. But the example I'm giving you I'm changing up the words, and because sometimes I wake up in a different state. So I might say things differently, but use different words that kind of stimulate my emotions. Emotions. Being emotional will influence your conscious mind because it makes you believe it. Once you believe it, it influences the subconscious mind. That's what we want. Now, let's move on here, because I'm not too sure if Napoleon Hill gives some homework in this chapter. I think he does. Napoleon Hill says, go back to these 6 steps described in chapter 2 and read them again very carefully before you proceed further. So even pause this once we know what he's telling you to do. Pause this video and go back to your 6 steps. You should have it written down right in front of you anyway. You shouldn't have to go back and find it. If you did the homework, it should be there. So go back to these 6 steps described in chapter 2 and read them again very carefully before you proceed further. Then you will come to it. Read very carefully the 4 instructions for the organization of your mastermind group described in the chapter of organized planning. Now, we haven't got to that yet. Napoleon Hill is kind of ahead of himself. We haven't gotten to this chapter. By comparing these 2 sets of instructions with that which you have stated on autosuggestion, you, of course, will see that the instructions involve the application of the principle of autosuggestion. Okay. Now, Napoleon Hill here is kind of stepping ahead. He's stepping ahead into another chapter, which we'll get to in that chapter. But what I want you to do is definitely go back on the 6 steps, reread it, and rethink about it. Remember, therefore, when reading aloud the statement of your desire through which you're endeavoring to develop a money consciousness, that this is what he says, the mere reading of words is of no consequence. This is what we've been talking about. Unless you mix emotion or feeling with your words. If you repeat a million times the famous day by day in every way, I'm getting better and better, without mixing emotion and faith with your words, you will experience no desirable results. Your subconscious mind recognizes and acts upon only thoughts which have been well mixed with emotion and feeling. Let me say this again. Your subconscious mind recognizes and acts upon only thoughts which have been well mixed with emotion and feeling. Emotion. So your subconscious mind only responds to emotion and feeling with your affirmations and your repetitions. See, this is where things kind of crumble a little bit, because we have to really be honest with ourselves. See, this is the mistake. We're not honest with ourselves. We don't observe ourselves. You have to be truly honest with yourself. See, most of the time, when I teach this and I talk about it, and maybe coach or mentor, or even business consult, we talk a lot about this stuff. See, what happens is when you're talking to someone one-on-one, see, right away, their ego and pride wants to get in the way. They want to say, "Oh no, I don't do that," or I do. I do this, or I do what you say. I do what you say you're telling me to do. I mean, the results aren't there. I mean, I know from experience it's not there. But they're just trying to cover it up. But the thing is, you have emotion driving you right now. What you attracted into your life is all from your habit and your subconscious mind. You're attracting things into your life right now. See, you have to figure out what you're emotional about. See, let me give you an example. And this is a really good example. Let's say, and a lot of people do this. Let's say after work, maybe on your lunch break, doesn't really matter at this point, but you walk outside. As you walk outside, someone pulls up right in front of you. And they pull up in your dream car. This is a car you really want. They pull up, they get out. Maybe they see you, they nod or at least acknowledge you. And they walk off, go into a restaurant, hit their alarm on their car. What do you really think at that point? See, if you're really honest with yourself, and this is where the honesty comes in. So I want you to be truly honest with yourself. Put yourself in that position and be truly honest of how do you feel. Do you feel excited? Like, oh, there's my dream car. Yes, I'm going to have that. That's my dream car. Or do you slightly to yourself, not out loud. Maybe you're around your friends, but silently you're telling yourself you're snickering. You're like, oh, that person, I bet he robbed the bank to buy that car. Or you snicker, or you make fun of the guy, or the woman, or you make some sly little negative joke. What do you really do in that moment? See, those slight things that we do that we don't notice yet is what we're attracting into our life. See, let me help you out here. In that scenario, if you ridicule, make fun of, make a slight comment, either to yourself, you snicker. We all know what snickering means. You don't need to say anything. Lie, cheat, steal, whatever. Couple things happen. You get exactly that. Right back to you. The second most important thing with the law of attraction and talking about this, what you snicker about, what you make fun of, what you make fun of another person, you snicker about his car, you make some lame joke, you will never, ever, ever have that car. You will never, ever, ever reach that type of success. Know how I know this? Because the law of the universe, the law of attraction, will never, ever, ever let that attract itself to you because you hate it. Because that's the type of emotion you're giving your subconscious mind. You're giving that emotion of hate. So why in the world, the universe is going to, law of attraction, law of vibration, why is it going to attract itself to you? It's going to repel from you. What you hate, what you despise, what you don't like, repels from you. Even though that might be your dream car. Even though that might, over here across the street, might be my dream house. But in my speech, I'm making fun of the person that lives there, or I'm snickering, making some lame comment. Or maybe I'm just thinking it. I don't have to say it, I'm just thinking. See, you start noticing that you actually do this. And that's what you have to change. Because it's the slight little things we do that we're not aware of that's holding us back. And this is the honest truth. So this is what I want you to start doing. You see someone pull up in your dream car, bless that person. You know, there's a great proverb, and this kind of goes off from Napoleon Hill a little bit, but since we're on this topic, I want to give it to you. There's a great proverb, and this comes from Hawaii, and it goes like this: bless that which you want. You see someone pull up in your dream car, bless that person and bless that car, and bless yourself that you're going to have that car. Be excited about it. You go to someone's house, you've never been there before, and you go up and you're like, oh my God, this is my dream house. Bless that person and bless the house. And bless yourself because you're going to have a house exactly like that. But see, it's not the opposite. It's not making fun of and ridiculing and making stabbing comments or thinking it, no matter if you say it or think it. It works the same way. We really have to be careful what our core emotions really are. See, you can have whatever you can have. You can have whatever it is you want. You can live a dream lifestyle that you want to live. We all don't want the same thing. We all don't want to drive a $200,000 car. We all don't want to live in a $5 million house. We all want different things for our lifestyle, but you can live exactly how you want to live. You can have a career and do exactly what you want to do. I promise you this. But there's certain things we must do. There are certain things we have to get to the core of who we really are. We have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to be good at observing ourselves in situations and what we're telling ourselves, what we're repeating to ourselves privately. That, my friends, was a huge secret in this course right here. So let's go on here. Let's move on. We're almost done with this section. Let me see where I left off. Napoleon Hill kind of goes on, continuing where we left off. He says, plain, unemotional words do not influence the subconscious mind. What we've been talking about. You will get no appreciable results until you learn to reach your subconscious mind with thoughts or spoken words which have well emotionalized with belief. So you have to get emotion and you have to believe it. Then he goes on and says, do not become discouraged if you cannot control and direct your emotions the first time you try to do so. Remember, there is no such possibility as something for nothing. The ability to reach and influence your subconscious mind has its price, and you must pay the price. You cannot cheat even if you desire to do so. The price of ability to influence your subconscious mind is everlasting. Persistence in applying the principles described here, you cannot develop the desired ability for a lower price. You and you alone must decide whether or not the reward for which you are striving, money consciousness, is worth the price you must pay to attain it. Napoleon Hill brings up something very interesting here. And the sentence that kind of stuck out to me is, you cannot cheat even if you desire to do so. So when we're dealing with law of attraction, when we're dealing with personal development in general, not even law of attraction, the issue is with success. There are no shortcuts. Okay? There's no shortcuts. No matter who you listen to, people telling you there's shortcuts, people telling you there's shortcuts to six-pack abs, whatever it is, there are no shortcuts whatsoever. You have to do the work. That is what Napoleon Hill is saying. You have to do the work. You have to pay the price. There is no such thing as something for nothing. You're not going to get that six-pack abs doing nothing, trying to create some type of cheat scheme or shortcut to get them. You have to work. See, this is the issue right now with our industry, with a lot of industries. People want to bring in experts, or so-called experts wants to bring in immediate gratification, all these shortcuts, because they're only telling you what you really want to hear, but you're not getting no results. See, you want results. That's what you really want. When people tell you what you want to hear, they just set you up to fail. See, the issue with our educational system, when we go through our education, the middle school, high school, college, sometimes what we learn is how to cheat the system. How do we play the system? Figuring out what our teachers want so we can just give them what they want and get a good grade. Then we try to do the same thing in life. We get a job and we have the same mentality. When I go into consult businesses, it's the same mentality I see over and over and over again. People trying to cheat the system to get ahead. But what we have to understand is, when people cheat the system, the only thing they're doing is cheating themselves. That's the only thing they're doing. When people cheat you, or they cheat me, see, how I handle it is, it has nothing to do with me. When people cheat me, it has nothing to do with me. It's all on them. Because this is what I know. When people cheat me, they're really cheating themselves. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing at all. See, it doesn't have nothing to do with me unless I let it affect me. Once I let it affect me, then it has something to do with me. If I don't let it affect me, that's all on them. Because they're really cheating themselves. That's what they're gonna receive right back. But see, that's why it doesn't work when we look at success. That's why it doesn't work when we look at law of attraction, when we look at wanting to achieve greater and be better, no matter what we want to achieve. See, you're trying to find little cheap cheat sheets and little loopholes to get what you want because you don't want to go through the steps. And it doesn't work. You have to pay the price. You have to do it. If you think there's a cheat sheet somewhere, or you think there's a secret somewhere, you're on that giant hamster wheel. You're running and running and running and running and running. You can't get off of it. And you will never get off of it until you learn you have to do the work. Let's move on. Napoleon Hill says something great. Where failure is experienced, it is not the individual, not the method which has failed. I said that backwards. I'm going to repeat it one more time. Where failure is experienced, it is the individual, not the method which has failed. I'll say it one more time. Where failure is experienced, when a person fails, it's the person, not the method. So what Napoleon Hill is saying, when you're trying to master these 13 principles that Napoleon Hill is talking about, and you fail, and you feel like you failed, you didn't get what you want, it's not the method, it's not his principles, it's you. You failed. Then he goes on, and he says, if you try and fail, make another effort, and still another until you succeed. Your ability to use the principle of autosuggestion will depend very largely upon your capacity to concentrate upon a given desire, and that desire becomes a burning obsession. He's blending in everything we've been learning from the beginning. Having a definite purpose, being persistent, having a burning desire, having faith, which is belief, expect great things. He's blending in everything right here. Now, the summary of this chapter, Napoleon Hill gives a summary of instructions. And this relates back to chapter 2 on your 6 steps. And he says this stuck out to me. If you choose to follow some of the instructions, but neglect or refuse to follow others, you will fail. To get satisfactory results, you must follow all instructions in a spirit of faith. Here again, says it in a different way, but he's talking about mastery. He's talking about mastering all the 13 principles in this book. Remember I told you, he brings it up in every single chapter. Again, he says this, if you choose to follow some of the instructions, but neglect or refuse to follow others, you will fail. To get satisfactory results, you must follow all instructions in a spirit of faith. What does faith mean again? In a spirit of belief. In the spirit of expectancy. The instructions given in connection with the 6 steps in the 2nd chapter will now be summarized and blended with the principles covered by this chapter as follows. So first, go into a quiet spot, preferably in bed at night, where you will not be disturbed or interrupted. Close your eyes and repeat aloud so you may hear your own words the written statement of the amount of money you intend to accumulate, the time limit for its accumulation, and the description of your service or merchandise you intend to give in return for the money. As you carry out these instructions, see yourself already in possession of the money. Now, this is an important fact here. See yourself already in possession of your goal. See yourself already in possession of the money which you want. See yourself in possession of it. This exercise I want you to do tonight, if you have not already done it. Do it tonight exactly how Napoleon Hill states. Then he gives an example. Suppose you intend to accumulate $50,000 by the 1st of January, 5 years from now, that you intend to give personal services in return for the money in the capacity of a salesman. Your written statement of your purpose should be similar to the following. This is where Napoleon Hill gives an example of the 6 steps. By the first day of January 19th, such and such date, I will have in my possession $50,000, which will come to me in various amounts from time to time during that interim. In return for the money, I will give the most efficient service which I am capable, rendering the fullest possible quantity and the best possible quality of service and the capacity of a salesman. Then he says in parentheses, describe the service or merchandise you intend to sell. I believe that I will have this money in my possession. My faith is so strong that I can now see this money before my eyes. I can touch it with my hands. It is now awaiting transfer to me at this moment, and in the proportion that I deliver the service I intend to render in return for it. I am awaiting a plan by which to accumulate this money, and I will follow that plan when it is received. Napoleon Hill says, second, repeat this program night and morning until you can see in your imagination the money you intend to accumulate. Third, place a written copy of the statement where you can see it night and morning and read it just before retiring and arising until it has been memorized. Now, 2 and 3, you already knew, but that's in chapter 2. Napoleon Hill says, remember, as you carry out these instructions, that you are applying the principle of autosuggestion for the purpose of giving orders to your subconscious mind. Remember also that your subconscious mind will act only upon instructions which are emotionalized and handed over to it with feeling. Faith is the strongest and most productive of the emotions. Follow the instructions given in the chapter on faith. So go back. This is what I want you to do. Go back and review the chapter on faith. Because the chapter on faith, there was a lot in this chapter. There's a lot condensed in this chapter before he got off on the examples. So go back and review the chapter on faith. Napoleon Hill kind of goes on, and he talks about if you're skeptical. And he says if you're skeptical, and connection with all new ideas is a characteristic of all human beings. You're just human. If you're skeptical, you're just human. But if you follow the instructions outlined, you will soon be replaced by belief. And this, in return, will soon become crystallized into absolute faith or absolute belief. Then you will arrive at the point where you may truly say, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Napoleon Hill states again, carry out these instructions as though you were a small child. Inject into your efforts something with faith of a child. This is really strong, and we've been saying many examples having faith of a child. What does that mean? This is where you play with the terms, the different words. Having belief of a child, expect as a child. I mean, most of the time when a child's young enough, when it gets older, it's a little bit different. When a child's young enough, whatever you explain, they believe you. They expect it. They just take your word for it. That's it. They don't question. That's what Napoleon Hill is saying that you must do. Carry out these instructions as though you were a small child. Inject into your efforts something of the faith of a child. Now he gives you a little bit of homework. After you read the entire book, come back to this chapter and follow in spirit and action this instruction. So after we finish this course, after you finish this book, write down in your notes that you come back to this chapter and you read the entire chapter aloud once every night until you become thoroughly convinced that the principle of autosuggestion is sound, that it will accomplish for you all that has been claimed for it. As you read, underscore with a pencil or a highlighter every sentence which impresses you favorably. That's your homework. So after you're done with this course, after you're done with the book, come back to this chapter on autosuggestion and do exactly what Napoleon Hill has stated. Read the chapter aloud once a day until you firmly believe in the power of autosuggestion. And I'll see you in the next chapter.